Hello and welcome to another episode of Historically Speaking. Historically Speaking is a show where we have a lot of conversation about historical events in the past, historical characters, and what bearing they have on the contemporary circumstances. Today, with me on my show, I have my dear friend, senior journalist, and editorial director of NewsX, Priya Sehgal. And here we are to discuss her really much talked about book, The Contenders. You can get a copy of The Contenders at the bookstores near you or on Amazon. This book to talk about Contenders is about who will lead the country tomorrow. She had written a first edition of The Contenders, which she had listed out a series of contenders who could lead the country in the future. This is a kind of a revision where she's included new people in the light of the 2024 elections. And as we know, contenders in politics keep changing. Thank you, Priya, for coming to our show. One of the first questions that our viewers want to know is what do you understand by contenders and why did you decide to call your book The Contenders?
Thank you so much, Aishwarya, for having me here and for the build up to my book. And let me tell our viewers one other secret. You asked now, how did I choose my contenders? Well, I had some inside help from Aishwarya and Karthik who helped me weed out the pretenders from the contenders. So, the checklist, I think, actually, why I called it the contenders is because this book, the first edition, as you said, came out in 2019 on the eve of elections. So, the elections mean there's always a race going on for the prime ministerial post. So contenders are for the top post, but obviously not all of them are the prime ministerial level. So we just left it as contenders in the political mind space of, as you said, it's India today and India tomorrow. Who's going to lead India tomorrow, really? So we chose a group of leaders in the mid 50s, early 40s and 50s. I use 55 as the cutoff age, which shows that they've arrived at a certain level but not yet reached where they're going to go. So they are still contenders in that sense.
I'm sure this is your book, and obviously, you all your characters are close to your heart because you have researched on them and you worked with them, spoken with these people. But there are some contenders which stand out for obvious reasons, for probably their ability to transcend certain barriers, for their ability to surprise you at different occasions, and to kind of go beyond expectations. Although you never really know what to expect in politics, but there must be some contenders which really stand out, and I wouldn't go to the extent of saying favorites, but I would say who really stand out and who do you see as being constant, even if you were to write a third version of the book?
Well, actually, I have no hesitation in naming a few, but I think out of all of them, Akhilesh Yadav really remains a favorite. And in fact, initially my plan was to write a book on him. And then, of course, at that time, MJ Akbar was my editor.
Yeah.
And he says, let him do something because, he just become chief minister for the first time. So he's a long way ahead. That book will take its time. And we are actually working on a book like that. But Akhilesh was really someone who has, I'm very happy to say, never failed to live up to what I wrote about him in the book. Also, he's never failed, he's not disappointed me at all. One saw in him, as a first time chief minister, young leader. One has been following his journey. When I did the book again, when I did a reviewed the book and did an edition of it, a later edition, I met him again, and he stayed true to the script. He hasn't, and he's someone who I think has taken life. He is a dynast, but unlike the other dynasts, Akhilesh is someone who's had to actually it wasn't handed over to him. He had to fight for his legacy, fight his father for it, and really build his way onto the platform, the family platform. So in that sense also, he's a little different from the other dynasts.
It's interesting that if we see Akhilesh Yadav's journey, it is very similar to the journey in some ways like Tejasvi Yadav in Bihar. And in certain respects, both were sons of very strong and senior leaders with a national footprint. And both were made chief ministers because their party won, and obviously their fathers headed the party. But they've come a long way in kind of from that being sons of Mulayam Singh Yadav and Lalu Prasad Yadav to being Akhilesh Yadav and Tejasvi Yadav. So did you, when you were writing the book, see that evolution, or did you actually think that they would be able to, because those were very big shoes to fit in?
Yes, big shoes to fit in, and also little difference. Tejasvi was Lalu's favorite son. There was no, hesitation as to who Lalu would see as his heir. Mulayam did not want to make Akhilesh his heir. He was in fact competing with Akhilesh for the throne finally, for the presidentship of the Samajwadi Party, when Akhilesh had to literally, snatch away his legacy and fight for it and do that coup that he did on the eve of, I think, the 2017 elections, if I'm not wrong, the assembly elections. So in that sense, Akhilesh had to fight for his, position as Mulayam's heir apparent. He's also taken Mulayam's legacy and refashioned it. So has Tejasvi Yadav, from the Muslim Yadav vote bank, he's expanded it. Akhilesh Yadav, actually, even when he was fighting the election as the party president, state president, I remember he was the only one who had a BlackBerry. Now, Mulayam Singh had the whole, they have this very Luddite point of view. Computers are bad, and English speaking is bad. And, in the Samajwadi Party office, even in that time, this is 2012, there was not a single computer. And there was Akhilesh with his BlackBerry, and he was answering messages on BBM. And in fact, I was with him on his Rath Yatra when he took the first Rath Yatra, and he's pointing to the mobile phones were just coming in, and he's saying, "Dekho, wo Samsung ka camera hai," and he's knew all the new gadgets. He's saying, "Ab party workers ke paas bhi cameras aa gaye hain." Then when he took over the thing, he actually refashioned the party office. Computers came in. Today, when I went into the party office, there were printouts, computers, and normal, like there was a conference room. Early on, there was even a library with books. Some of the books were even in English. So all this was not there in the Mulayam Singh Yadav's Samajwadi Party. In fact, when Akhilesh became CM, he distributed laptops with Mulayam Singh Yadav's face as the screensaver. And Mulayam Singh Yadav had a fit, and he said, "Mera face mat use karo computer pe," because he was still against technology and against all this. But Akhilesh had to fight a mindset. He also had to fight the image of the Samajwadi Party as a Gundas party. So if you remember, the first decision that he made to show that there is a party with a difference was in 2012 when he denied DP Yadav, who's a goon, a ticket. And the fact that Akhilesh Yadav denied the ticket, I was in fact on the Rath Yatra with him. And usamay, I was also a little new to UP politics, so I didn't understand the significance of this. Then when we came back to Lucknow, Shivpal Yadav had protested against DP Yadav being denied a ticket. And that, Akhilesh said, I am sending a message that this is a different party. मतलब ये पढ़े लिखे लोगों की भी party है, बस बिल्कुल गुंडास are not going to be. So that goon image has taken a long time for him to rub off, which is why Yogi Adityanath had an advantage when he came, because he says कि law and order under the Samajwadi Party was an all-time low, and law and order has actually improved under Yogi Adityanath. And now the way I'm seeing Samajwadi Party shape up, I think if or when Akhilesh Yadav, I would say when, not if, comes back as chief minister, I think it would be a different Samajwadi Party.
Priya, you spoke of Yogi Adityanath, and he's also one of the contenders of the book, and he's remained constant in both the books as a contender.
The reluctant fundamentalist, I call
Yes,
it.
Yogi Adityanath has really obviously risen from being the head of the Gorakhnath temple Mutt in Gorakhpur to being the four-time MP from Gorakhpur to being the two-term chief minister. So there's been a long journey there also. But here is someone from very humble origins who has really and he captured the imagination of the people from what you speak of, and what I've also seen is about this thing of law and order in UP. So here is a contender again who had a completely different upbringing and completely different environment, and completely transforming the game for the BJP in Uttar Pradesh. Of course, he had the charisma of Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with it, but it also had a great deal to do with Yogi's no-nonsense image, which has he's carved a thing as someone who means business. So did that come out in your research on the book when you were working on him, that did you think that he would turn out, because his early years as a member of parliament didn't get anyone of us sit up and take notice, and that's what tells you about the unpredictableness of politics, that you never know from where the leader would rise. So did you experience something like that? Did you see pointers which took you in that direction where Yogi ji is concerned?
He's a 5-term MP, Yogi Adityanath, and I have been covering MP Parliament, 3 decades of political career behind me as a political journalist. Yogi Adityanath was someone, who never really came in my radar. I must admit that. But when he became chief minister, then we were reading up about him, learning about him, and he was always a very happy, smiling face that you remembered, in saffron robes in parliament. And now when you see him as chief minister, it's not the smile is still there. He's still smiling, but there is a very stern disciplinarian also that has come out, whether it is the Love Jihad or the Romeo Squads. So he does enforce law and order, but it comes with a certain, there is a religious coloring to his shasan in that sense. He is sending out a very, I called him the not so reluctant fundamentalist, because he is unapologetic about the message that he's sending out. He's and this he reminds me of Prime Minister Modi as Chief Minister. In his first term as Chief Minister, Modi also played the Hindu card, the Hindu Hriday Samrat, which is exactly where Yogi is going. In his second term, he became more statesmanlike and got down to the business of maybe auditioning for the role of Prime Minister or to a role in the center, which is what you can see even Yogi is now looking to carve a bigger role perhaps. So he's also, this time, there was that bulldozer Raja bit and all that thing. But apart from that, he's also holding investor summits. He's also talking about roads. He's also talking about, trying to woo everyone. So there is a little bit of a change, but Yogi knows his branding is still the Hindutva card, the Hindu image. And in that, he's giving Modi a run for his money. There are as many, I do a lot of lectures that speak to young students also. And there is a lot of clamoring to hear about Yogi Adityanath. So he has a huge following, which, he was not the first election in UP, as you rightly pointed out, was fought on the Prime Minister's image. Yogi was not the CM candidate.
Yes.
But the second elections where he held on to the mandate, he didn't improve on it, but he definitely held on to the mandate, was on Yogi's card. And there is the Yogi Modi double engine effect in UP. Part of the reason why the BJP didn't do so well in this election is also, what we are hearing is that Yogi was not given that much of a position in terms of campaigning, in terms of ticket selection, and miffed Yogi is perhaps what has cost the BJP. So has Modi unleashed the genie out of the bottle? How does he put him back? It's a big question the BJP will have to figure out.
Speaking of contenders, other contenders in the BJP, even Himanta Biswa Sarma stands out. And that's been a 360-degree evolution, because he was a leader of the Congress party for the longest period of time. And here he's now the Chief Minister of Assam, and quite a Chief Minister who's very popular outside his state also. So it also tells you about contenders could also come from other parties and then probably shine brighter in a different party and get a footprint that you never imagined. Did you imagine Himanta would be, when you wrote the first book, that time he was still in the Congress, I guess. He was in the board. Yeah. So when you were working or doing a research on him, did you think that Himanta would have such a leap when he would be in the BJP?
No, in fact, the last line of my book on 2019 is that he will be Chief Minister one day. So, in that sense, so when I gave him the book, and after he became Chief Minister, I presented him the book. We were doing a conclave for NewsX, in fact, and he said that, he acknowledged that you had predicted that. But Hemanta is, he's the part of his USP or the charm is that he is always the insider. Even when he's in shift from the BJP to the Congress, Congress to the BJP, he became the insider.
You are right about that.
And he who was running Assam. It was not Sonowal. It was him. And he is also, his grouse was that he's always been the number 2 man. He was number 2 to Gogoi. When he joined the BJP, he was number 2 to Sonowal. So the Congress had a huge time pulling his leg, saying, "Abhi bhi number 2 or tab bhi number 2 the." But he said, at least here I'm acknowledged. Tarun Gogoi never acknowledged me. And towards the end, 23 years he spent in the Congress. But you see, after 23 years in the Congress, I see Gogoi's son coming in, this young kid, and I'm told, isko tum sikhao, show him the ropes, take him around. And he said, I'm not here to groom your son. I'm here to, he was eyeing the chair. He's not going to groom Gaurav Gogoi for the chair. That was really the last straw. But he's saying in the BJP, at least, he was made chairman of NIDA. He was given some prominence. He's saying when Amit Shah and Modi are sitting on the dais with Sonowal, they are acknowledging me, they're calling me on stage. So he felt that there is, a scope to be the Chief Minister. And sure enough, I think the BJP did give him his due. There also, I'm told he had to have a little bit of a tussle to prove his, but Hemanta is not shy of proving himself or demanding his share. And that is the thing, there is the hunger for power, which is not there so much in the Dynas with other politicians, not there in Rahul Gandhi. I'm sure we'll speak about him. Hemanta had that hunger. Yogi has that hunger. Akhilesh had the hunger, despite being a Dynas, but it was denied to him. So there is that which makes you, go for that, gives that, make the last mile connection. They have that in them.
Speaking of, you mentioned Rahul Gandhi, and I want to thank you. You have both the siblings, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, in this book. I have a question which is really peculiar. If Rahul is already which he is, the leader of the Congress party, even though he's not president, but he is the leader of the Congress party, and the party is obviously completely, he's in control of his party. His sister is also going to be making her debut, at least in polls. We'll know what is the fate much later. So, what is Rahul Gandhi in contention for now? And what is Priyanka Gandhi in contention with in a party where her brother is the leader?
Well, it's very interesting because everybody talks about sibling rivalry, then or is it sibling revelry because they both seem to be like together, and they always say it's our followers who are fighting. But between the brother and sister, there is no lack of mistrust.
Did you also like kind of feel the same, or is it? Do you think it is important in politics to also keep appearances, or you felt no, there was no rivalry and all seemed well? Because sometimes when your supporters are trying to get over each other, it does have an impact on you.
It does have an impact, but I think where Priyanka, at least when I met her, was she just about to join politics. There was always a deference to her brother, and I'm seeing this even in terms of the way she planned a campaign in UP. It was Rahul Gandhi's office that was giving the schedule of where she's going, where she's where she will be addressing. Her debut was not the ideal Gandhi debut. You've seen how Rajiv Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, they are brought in from the Youth Congress things. They're given a little chance to find their feet, and then they are taken in. She was dropped in January 2019 and given UP to deliver. And UP is not the easiest of states, so her debut was not a dream one. She was actually built up for a fall, if you ask me. So in that sense, if I won't blame her if she suspects or she doesn't trust her brother's advisors, because this is not the kind of debut I think she would have wanted. But over time, she's also proved herself, or the Congress has proved itself, both brother and sister. Circumstances, post last elections, both of them are standing tall now.
But Priya, do you think, okay, all is nice and rosy now, but we've seen the kind of families at war, father, son, brother, sister, husband, wife, at war in politics, or more often in contention with one another. So, how long do you think this rivalry will continue? How long will this oh so rosy picture of we both hum saath hai? Do you think there has to be some point where views do clash when the footprint increases or decreases? You go up, there's a different sort of clamoring for power. When you go down, there's a different sort of a clamoring for power when you're out of power. So don't you see at some point there are chances that the worlds would collide? It's always happened. We've seen it. There are ample examples. Jagan and Sharmila have now completely different aspirations. In Telangana, KCR's son KTR and Kavita had completely different ambitions. DMK, Stalin and Kanimohi had different roles to play. I think probably the parents kind of...
And Azagari, the other brother.
Yeah, Tejasvi and Misa Bharti. Misa Bharti is no pushover as a sibling. Yeah. So I'm just asking you, for how long this sibling bonhomie will play out?
Well, it's going to be very interesting to watch, because as you rightly said, it's another thing to be when you're out of power. But now when you are, in all this thing next 5 years, the Congress has a good chance of coming back to power, I would say. So then who would be the prime ministerial face? So far, Priyanka has deferred to Rahul. It is Rahul who decides, as I said, whether it's a schedule or the fact that Rahul is the leader of the party. She always refers to him as my leader. But don't forget, when she was made general secretary, she is the only general secretary without a portfolio. If what we are hearing is that they wanted to make her in charge of the youth organizations, I think the frontal organizations, she said, I will be at par with Kanhaiya Kumar. So she did not take that role. She wants a larger role. She wanted general secretary organization or something of that caliber, or a Ahmed Patel sort of a portfolio, which was not given to her because Rahul's favorite KC Venugopal is in that seat. And Rahul will prefer it that way also. Priyanka is known to be temperamental. She is very feisty. She's very instinctive. She's an instinctive politician, where Rahul is a, a calculated one. He thinks his moves out. She speaks more from the heart, while his is more from a more studied response, I would say. So yes, their roles could clash. If not them, their supporters will, because they will be two different camps. There's already a Priyanka camp. Rajiv Shukla is not a favorite of Rahul Gandhi. He's a very much a Priyanka favorite. So there are people like that. Sidhu, I think, was Priyanka. Sachin Pilot is closer to Priyanka. There are a whole lot of the leaders who are Priyanka's people. And once she comes in, now she's going to be a member of parliament also. Both of them are going to be in the same house. It's going to be very interesting, which is one reason I think why Rahul is taken over leader of opposition. He is the leader. She will defer to him. So long as that happens, I think everything, the hierarchy is fine. If she gets too ambitious, or that's when the problems will arise. So far she's stuck to the script. But as you said, it's going to be a very interesting place to watch, really.
Priya, there's one interesting name that comes across in your book, and that is Arvind Kejriwal. You call him the argumentative Indian.
He's a D.
Yeah. So he started in 2014 as someone who was looking for a much national role. He fought that election in Varanasi against Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and since then he's been constantly reinventing himself. Obviously now he's in a very precarious position because he has some legal cases going on. But as a leader, where do we see Arvind Kejriwal fitting in the contenders list now? Because now it's very difficult to kind of map out what will be his own future and the future of his party.
Yes, I see him at a slightly low right now. Before that, before Rahul, and also because now Rahul has come into his own.
Yeah.
Earlier, the Congress was floundering. The opposition didn't have a leader.
Yeah.
Now at least, probably in the, when the next election comes, Rahul will be the prime ministerial face of the opposition. But at that time, they didn't have a leader who could take on Modi. It was Arvind Kejriwal taking him on gumption and 24/7 responses. If you remember the Gujarat election, state elections, at the beginning, Rahul Gandhi was on his Bharat Jodo Yatra. It was Kejriwal who was leading the opposition's battle against him. When he talked about Gujarat model, Kejriwal spoke about the Delhi model. They talked about Hindutva. He was reciting the Hanuman Chalisa in front of cameras. He was giving Modi, blow by blow. But of late, since he's been, in the Tihar jail, the liquor scam, I think now he's going to be really worried about Delhi. So his focus has also become, he won't be trying to expand his party, but holding on to what he has. So Kejriwal has been contained. And one reason for that is he's not a team player. He didn't build a second rung. He's very insecure. Like, I guess, a lot of leaders at the top are. He doesn't have a party base, and he doesn't have a number two. One person he trusted was probably Manish Sisodia, who's also in Tihar. So he's been cut to size, literally. So
thing that I think about Arvind Kejriwal's party is also that it has created many contenders within his party. While he's away and in the liquor scam, it has now, I think I'm sure you must be exposed to a lot of discussion in the media also. Who are the contenders? If Kejriwal is not there, then you have a Raghav Chadda, you have an Atishi, you have a Sanjay Singh.
You have Mrs. Kejriwal.
You have Mrs. Kejriwal.
Sunita Kejriwal, don't forget her rally, her coming out.
So instead of him becoming that contender, now they're contenders to his job also. I somehow feel that because the elections are around the corner, in about a year's time you will have Delhi going to polls. So we'll have to see how that situation evolves, because now I think in the Aam Aadmi Party there are contenders apart from Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's very interesting, though Kejriwal is not a dynastic leader, but his party is on that one-man model.
Yeah.
So without him, the Aam Aadmi Party will flounder.
I think Mr. M.J. Akbar used to say under the bus principle.
Yeah.
The moment the leader goes under the bus, the party flounders. Yeah. So,
correct.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
Yeah.
For instance, Samajwadi Party without Akhilesh, there is nobody. Or a Tejasvi, maybe a Tej Pratap or Misa, but I don't think they'll be able to hold the party together. So with these smaller regional parties, especially, which are family-oriented parties, like we've seen the Akali Dal, it's splintering as of now. There are a lot of within the thing, because can Sukhbir Badal hold on to his father's legacy? So we are seeing that happen, and it's so in that sense, Aam Aadmi Party I don't think will remain. I think they'll just probably join the Congress and the BJP.
Speaking of legacy, Priya, and this is my last question to you. You use a term called techno royal for Jyotiraditya Scindia. He is now technically he looks after telecom, and he's a royal, and he is in he's now in the ministry with the last time he had civil aviation, and now so. People like Jyotiraditya Scindia, who are very charismatic, very popular. The media loves him. His constituency, they've worked extensively. He's a delivery kind of a minister who's always delivered on
He's
things.
good on governance.
Yeah, he's good on governance. So, what is he in contention for?
Well, in the Congress, he was in contention for the top job, but in the BJP, of course, everybody's, it's very funny. They say in the Congress, you can't vie for the top job because that is taken.
Yeah.
But ditto in the BJP also, now,
Yeah.
of course, in a post-Modi era, he may, but he's not, it's
From the party.
yet he is from the party
yeah.
because he always the legacy he wants is not his father's,
It's Rajmata's.
it's the grandmother's legacy.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because he always saw himself as his father's son, and the Madhavrao Scindia and Jyotiraditya were fighting with the grandmother and the sisters.
Yeah.
But the legacy that is going to save him in the BJP is his grandmother's.
Yes.
And that's what he's now fighting his aunts for.
Yeah, yeah.
He's been saying ki, ye to mera hi. When asked why you joining the BJP, he's saying, but my family has always been from the BJP. Mane who? Grandmother, not the father.
Yeah.
So he's going to that legacy, whether he wants it or not. So he's taking a legacy which he's been fighting against.
Yeah. So, Priya, my final question to you will be that in 2029, will you think we will have this list continuing as a constant, or you'll be compelled to write another contender book because they would have changed? Or there are some people who you do still see constant in 2029 in this list?
In this list, I think some will remain constant. Rahul Gandhi, Akhilesh Yadav, Yogi Adityanath, Hemanta Biswa Sarma, let's not underestimate him. Then I think Omar, for that piece of Kashmir, I think he will be a name to reckon with.
Yeah.
I would like to see what Arvind Kejriwal does. And Priyanka Gandhi, yes, in some role or the other.
Yeah.
So some people will be there, but of course we'll have to add more, like Jagan, like Revanth Reddy also is doing well. So there are names that are coming up.
We have Nara Lokesh now.
Nara Lokesh, Chandrababu's son.
Sunrise happening there down south. Yeah.
But it's very, if I may add 2 points I really want to add. One is that, a lot of the leaders in this Gen Next, they all have studied abroad. Whether Oxford or Lincoln's Inn or, Harvard. And they've all, when they come back, I was looking at them also to see will they bring back a different kind of politics. Politics with a difference, because the new age politics. But when they came back, and all of them, I had this conversation with Omar, with Rahul, with Milind Deora is also in the book. A lot of them who I spoke to, they said, we wanted to do politics with difference. Early on, when Rahul Gandhi came back, he says, "Main jaat nahi pehchanta hoon. I am an Indian, and that's my identity." And but then 3 years later, he was introducing Sam Petroda to his voters in UP by his caste. So he, that's how India is. They make you play. You cannot, but you have to fall into the caste. And see,
and
development.
He's asking for a caste census also.
He's asking for a caste census now. And so this is what, both Akhilesh and Omar, they made this point. They said development is something people take for granted. They say, aap neta ho, road banana aapka kaam hai.
Yes.
Lekin aur kya? That aur kya is the emotional connect. And that emotional connect comes from caste or religion, unfortunately. Akhilesh told me, he says, I was talking when he lost that election to Yogi. He said, I was talking about my expressway. I was talking about the metro. Logon ne suna Shamshan Ghat or Kabristan. So he's saying next, so there is connect that, development is something they take for granted. The extra you bring, unfortunately, is what I would call a little bit of regressive, because, there is an identity. People, I wish now at least Rahul Gandhi and people are talking jobs and economy. These things should win elections and should be part of your identity. And that's where these guys and their fancy degrees and pedigrees will be of use, which we hope. But there is also one more anecdote I want to add, which comes to, of course, the first question of the favorite. Is, what I like about Akhilesh Yadav is also he's a very gracious politician. I was talking to him about that expressway that he built. He said, "Aap us pe aaye the." I rode on it to go and meet him. He said, "Aapne toll bridge ko dekha?" I said, "वो tolls ko unka shape tha A and Y." Akhilesh Yadav. Then he looked at me, he says, "Abhi bhi chalega." Adityanath Yogi. Unlike Yogi, who's doing Ganga Jal in the house and purifying it for Akhilesh Yadav, he's at least gracious. He lost, the other man has come, we live to fight another day.
Yeah. Thank you, Priya. It's an interesting conversation we have had, and I'm sure our viewers would also enjoy it. For everyone else, I would once again say please get your hold on the book. It has some really interesting anecdotes. It is based on Priya's work on the field and her research, which she has done for many, many years. Thank you, Priya, for taking out time. Thank you. Thank you for historically speaking.
Thank you.